few seconds here. My computer decide. Come on.
I noticed you have a whole setup back there for sound. What do you know how to? That looks like a recording console back there.
Yeah, this is the stuff I use at home when I have to mix, but I have a professional studio. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. So, all right, we are live, Mr. Serafin.
Hey,
And so give me a second here. And so I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Uh, we are so fortunate and it's just a big honor to have back Bach clinician and recording artist, Mr. Serafin Aguilar. Serafin, thank you so much for coming back, man. Uh,
well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. We had such a great response last time that we figured we'd do it again. We did a lot of personal, just talking about my history and what I've done and what I want to do. But we didn't get a chance to really touch on some of the things that our audience wanted to know about. So we decided that it'd be best if we had a second part two, so we
right.
could get together and answer all these questions. Joey received a ton of questions, and some of them were answered in the previous web talk, but this not a lot of them did. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure we touch on all of it, so like that all of you guys are satisfied with these and keep coming to see Joey, so like that you can have a good response for and good numbers for his channel.
Well, I appreciate it, Serafine. So the first question I was asked, Serafine, is about your efficiency as a trumpet player, the way you approach efficient trumpet playing. I got numerous questions on that. Can you elaborate on that? How you approach trumpet playing and how you approach playing efficient?
So I guess there's a couple of analogies I can use that would probably maybe help me visualize it and help students visualize it that I've used for years. So I think I'll start off with those analogies. Some of you might be too young, so you don't are not going to recognize this first one. But Joey and I are of a generation where there were still cars that were stick shift. And if you drive a truck, a professional truck like a semi, those still have stick shifts, right? So
Yeah.
basically, you have an auto in cars. You have a transmission that's an automatic transmission, where the gears shift by themselves. It has a built-in mechanism that does it automatically, hence the name automatic transmission. And then you have something called a stick shift or a standard transmission, where basically you're the one that's controlling the changing of the gear. So the faster you go into a different gear to accommodate, so the engine is at its most efficient strength, and also the torque or the pulling of the car is the most efficient, right? So the same thing, I believe, happens with the lips. Now with the stick shift, there was something that where you had to press the gas and release the clutch at the same time in order to change from one gear to the next. So I feel that the embouchure works a lot that way. As you're looking for that place where the car is almost going to stall, where it's going to turn off, right? Because it doesn't have enough RPMs to push the car through. And that's when you release the clutch and then it goes into the next gear and you're able to continue to go faster, right? And the same thing goes in reverse. So I feel that the lips work like that. There's a certain friction point where the air is too much for what's happening, and then things start to have to change, move a little bit to accommodate the new airflow, and then they open up and they go on, and that's one of the visualizations that I have when I'm ascending and descending. I know some people say that you have to play with just one embouchure and everything stays static, and if that works for you, hey, more power to you. Congratulations. I'm not one of those guys. I started actually with two embouchures. I think I talked about it in my previous talk with Joey about how when I studied with Charlie, Charlie saw that I had two embouchures and a high set and a low set. One was a downstream for everything below a F, I think a high F or high G, and above a high G, I had another set that was an upstream embouchure. And it was a visual difference where you could see the mouthpiece, and I would have to take it off, put it, reset it, and all this stuff, right? Long story short, Charlie didn't think that that would work, and he at first was going to move me to the downstream embouchure, but he saw that I had so much facility with the upstream embouchure that he said, you know what, let's shelf the downstream embouchure and let's just work on making you efficient in the low register with the upstream embouchure. So we worked on that pretty much the whole time I was with him, was to bridge that gap down, and we got it. You know, we figured it out. Uh, but the other analogy that I like to use is, and this is more in terms of how much pressure to use and physical pressure to use. And I think it's a great analogy, a great visualization is if you get a glass, a crystal, and you fill it with water, like if you get a pretty expensive, or not even expensive, or a wine glass or a cup, you fill it with water halfway. And then the old trick you do is you moisten your finger a little bit, then you rub your finger on top and you push down just enough so that you get a friction point, or you get friction between your finger and the crystal. And then you get a sound, right? Well, the same thing with the lips. Too much pressure, too much physical tension, you'll choke, you'll push down on the crystal too hard with your finger, and you won't be able, all you get is a scratchy sound, right? Not enough pressure, not enough physical strength, and you won't get any sound either. You have to find that sweet spot where you're going to be able to get the most amount of sound, and you'll feel it too. You'll be able to hear. You'll feel it in your finger, and you'll hear it, where you'll hear, oh, okay, there. That's where the sound opened up. Oh, that's too much pressure. It's starting to choke off. Oh, okay, there it is. If I just touch just at this point, not too hard, not too soft, I get the biggest sound possible. And then you just, right? Same thing with the lips. Same thing with the way how the body works. At least that's the way how I figured it out. Is that there's a certain amount of pressure that you need to use. It's undeniable. Nobody, I haven't seen a trumpet player yet that doesn't play with a certain amount of physical exertion. The key is to find that physical place in yourself where, and that just changes from player to player. Some people might need to use a lot of pressure. Maynard was one of those guys that famously said his embouchure was his left arm, his left bicep. You know, he'd turn around and look at me when we were playing, and he'd nail a stuffing out of a double C, and he'd turn around and goes, the embouchure, it feels real good today. He was a riot.
Yeah.
But some people like that, and then there's other guys that you look at and it doesn't necessarily look like they're forcing themselves that much, maybe, but they're still using a certain amount of force. So those are two analogies that I use. The one of the stick shift, which some might be able to relate to, maybe the older audience, and for the younger guys, something it's universal. I don't think that'll go out of fashion. Is with the crystal glass. You put it with some water. You have to find that place where there's either too much or not enough pressure, and then somewhere in the middle, look for it, and then you'll hear it. The sound will just open up on that glass. Big full sound. You could fill a room up just with a little crystal glass, and that's how I think the trumpet works. If I get my mouthpiece here, and you'll be able to hear it. Not enough pressure, right? Too much pressure. You can hear the low register. It's a full sound. It's got core to it, right? And I was just using just enough pressure, not too much, not too little. And then the same thing translates to the instrument.
So, Serafin, another question I got from another. Well, these are like three questions that asked this. Serafin, they asked you how would you advise a student on how much air to use in the upper register? Because you talked about tanking up last time, and you said that wasn't good. So the question was, how much air should I have playing in the upper register? I think they're talking about the extreme upper register, like high Fs, high Gs, As, and all that stuff.
Okay, that's a good question. So I did mention that I do believe that there's a certain fallacy about taking in too much air. I don't know if I got into specifics of why I believe that. So first I'll address that issue, right? The fallacy, the biggest mistake that I've seen and that I've experienced myself when I was younger and I didn't quite know what I was doing, was of over expanding, over exerting, hyper extending, really is, I guess, the right word, the muscles in the whole breathing system, right, that are used to breathe and to exhale, right? When you breathe, the breathing means you take in air and then you let it out. and there's muscles that are designated for breathing in or expanding your rib cage and your lungs, the bottom of your lungs, so they fill up. And then there's another group of muscles that are dedicated to contracting your rib cage and your abdomen in order to expel the air, right? So I'll use the analogy of powerlifting, which it became a passion for me because of the fact that I understood how I could transfer that information over to trumpet playing. But I've often told students, pick up a dumbbell, right? If you pick up a dumbbell to do a bicep curl, let's say, right? Not something I normally do, but if the analogy still is the same for any muscle in the body, that bicep, that 5 pounds feels easy, right? So you pick it up and you can pick it up with your arm fully extended or halfway or partially or completely contracted. What ends up happening though is that the more weight you apply to that weight, right? So now you went from 5 to a 20-pound dumbbell, let's say. All of a sudden, when you're in this position fully, the bicep is fully, first of all, the bicep is what's causing your arm to close, not your forearm, not your tricep, not your shoulder, but your bicep, right? So we have to understand how the body works itself. Right here in this position, this muscle here is very prone to injury because it's fully extended, hyperextended. This is the weakest position of this muscle. Same thing for the tendon, right? Same thing happens in your body here. So what happens if you go to a maximal weight? Let's say your max is 50 pounds for curling, a dumbbell. Some people can do more, right? But let's just use 50. If you start your arm like this, from this position down here, more than likely you're going to injure yourself. If this is your max strength, if this is the top of what you would call a PR, personal record lift, right? Then that would probably cause you an injury. Well, the same thing happens for all your body too, the way how all the muscles in your respiratory system work. For those that think that the diaphragm has something to do with the production of notes other than to inhale, I'd like you to know that that's incorrect. The diaphragm is a muscle that contracts in one way and one way only. It contracts down. It pulls down. So what it does is that it pulls down, it creates a vacuum in the lungs, bottom of the lungs open up. That's it. That's the only function it does. Now there's other muscles in the abdominal area that hold it in place, that hold everything else in place. There's muscles around your rib cage that all contract, right? That's their job, to contract. That's what creates compression. That's what creates that supercharged air inside your lungs before it comes out. If you have taken a breath where you're like tanked up to the max and you cannot breathe anymore, well, guess what? Now you're in the position of that arm that was extended like this. You've hyperextended all the muscles in your chest cavity. You've hyperextended all the muscles in your abdomen. So what ends up happening is, and it happens, I see it all the time, you get a hernia. You can't play as well. You can't play as efficient. You get tired. Why? Because the muscles are put into a position where they can't work efficiently. Remember, we're looking for efficiency. So to bring it all into what you were asking me about, what do I think? How much air is needed? Really, not that much air is needed to play in the upper register. Not much air at all. What is needed is fast air. How do you create fast air? Compression. The magic word, compression, right? Everybody talks about it. What does compression mean? It just means that you've gotten the air that was in this amount of space, in this volume, and compressed it this much. So now it's aching to get out of your lungs. And then when you release it, it comes out through your oral cavity, however you have it set up. I prefer to have my tongue up high, saying E, right? As I go higher, E. And with my tongue in between my molars, okay, when I'm playing, and it comes out. If you push, you can't not, there's no way, because everything is so compact inside your body, there's no way you can push a ton of air out. So to think that you need a huge amount of air, you need some air to sit on, the same thing as you would if you were lifting a heavy weight, or for those of you guys that don't power lift or might not be able to relate to it, you can relate to picking up maybe a heavy sofa or picking up a heavy box off of the floor. If you take a big, huge breath, your stomach's going to be in the way and you're not going to be able to pick it up, bend down efficiently, and you'll probably hurt your back. If you don't have enough air in your stomach to be able to brace yourself, because that's what you're doing, you're bracing yourself for the lift, you're also going to have problems picking it up. So you want to take a nice full breath, right? That's it. That's all you need. You don't need more than that. Anything more than that, you're going to start getting in the way of things. You're going to start putting muscles in a place where they could get damaged. So take a nice full, reasonably full deep breath, not 100%, maybe let's say 70, right? And then everything else gets into play, and then you let it go. So and then one last visualization. I like visualizations because uh, it helps break down sometimes concepts that might seem a little bit nebulous or far fetched, and in the Bible you see them all the time. Jesus Christ was really good with these analogies about how to explain things and got people to understand in a way that maybe they couldn't have understood another way. So I like to use them. But the last analogy, and I got this one uh, from Bobby. I don't know if I mentioned it, but each register requires a certain amount of air. Low register, you need a lot of air because the vibrations that are created or that are needed to create the sound are slow vibrations. The lip is vibrating slow, right? As you get higher, the vibration gets faster and the oral cavity gets smaller. So the analogy that he used was think of pipes when you're thinking of registers. When you're in the low register, think of a big, huge like sewer or it's just a big, huge tube, right? Thinking of filling up that much air. And then when you get to the middle register, maybe it's a PVC tube like this. And as it gets higher, it gets progressed. This tube that we're using to imagine how much air we need gets smaller and smaller. By the time you're up around high G, it's like a straw. It's really not that much air. It's faster. To create it, to make it louder, then you have to obviously put more air behind it. But there's a certain law of diminishing returns after a certain point where the air starts getting in the way as opposed to helping you. But that's really what it is. So think of a big sewer tube or a big sewer canal for the low register. And as you get higher, you get progressively smaller and smaller. And when you get into the upper register, it's really laser point precision. Laser point just guiding the notes with the small amount of very fast air.
And that's great.
Did that make sense?
No, it made total sense, man. Bobby talks about that a lot. And another question I got, this is from a buddy of mine out in he's out in Miami, Florida. He's a Salcedo, and he's heard you play with Somayor, and he asked me to. This is the question he asked me to tell you. A lot of players have different embouchures, right?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
So I mean, from the greatest players in the world, they all have different embouchures, but everybody talks about playing in the red and not to play in the red, or how that affects endurance and this, that, and the other. What is your opinion on playing in the red? Because apparently my buddy plays in the red. And
well, if you look at me, I don't know if you can see, but can you see what it is?
Yeah.
Look at the mark. I'm in the red.
Yeah.
I'm in the pink. And that has nothing to do with a choice either. That's not a preference. Believe me, if I could, I would change it. Because ever since I was a little kid, you're playing too low, you're gonna hurt yourself, you're not gonna be a good trumpet player, you might be able to play high notes, but your sound is gonna be thin, you can't articulate. Every possible demerit I could have heard and received, I got it. But the reality is that has nothing to do. That's not my choice. It has everything to do with what I was born with, my physical attributes. Primarily your teeth, right? So as far as playing in that area is concerned, I know some people who've gotten hurt because they play too low. I do think that there might be a danger zone where that can happen. I know I have a colleague who the muscle actually slipped out of the skin tissue here, but I'm talking about somebody that was playing like really like just like like right there, just like on the very tip of it. But that's the difference between being an upstream player and a downstream player. So the lower you are, just so we understand or we're on the same page, all of us are in how that's defined, and upstream and downstream has nothing to do with the angle of the horn. Because I know plenty of players who are downstream players that play like this, but that's not the case. What determines that is where on your lip the mouthpiece is. The further up, the more likely you are going to be a downstream player, because what ends up happening is the mouthpiece pushes down or impinges the lower lip, and the top lip comes over. So what happens? The air shoots down. Doesn't matter if you're playing like this, because you're still set up like this, basically, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening. If you play further down here, then what ends up happening is the mouthpiece is impinging the top lip and giving more freedom to the bottom lip. So and these are exaggerations. This is not what's really happening. But just to visualize, basically, so the air shoots up. That's how you do that, or that's what that means. Nothing I can do about that. And nothing anybody can really do about that unless their embouchure is so drastically messed up and they're having problems with sound and endurance and injuring themselves. Then they should think about changing it, and I would still take that with a grain of salt, because you might go from, as they say in Spanish, de Guatemala a Guatepeor. You know, you know what I mean? It could get really bad really soon, and the thing is that the embouchure is so easily confused.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a newborn baby. Every time you pull the mouth, every time you pull the horn out, it's like. So any minute changes. That's why I work so diligently on keeping my routine consistent, because I believe that if I keep my routine consistent, I keep my brain and my muscle memory consistent, and I'm able to play consistently all the time. Some people are more fortunate that they don't have to practice that much. I feel that I do. But getting back to the point, the way how he's playing, which is like this, is nothing wrong with it. John Faddis is an upstream player. Freddie Hubbard was an upstream player. Now Freddie Hubbard did hurt himself at the end of his career, but that was from overexertion. If I understand it correctly, he was playing way too much, way too hard. There's recordings of him during that time before he got hurt where he would literally play the head, take a 15-minute long solo, let the piano player play one chorus, and then he'd come in for another 15-minute solo. You know, and you can hear that he was just going for it. Whatever had him possessed at that time, he created some amazing solos, you know, but the damage was done from playing like that. We're trumpet players, we can't do that. Not for extended periods of time. So unless he's having some issues, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If anybody tells them there's something wrong with it, tell them to look up John Faddis. To tell them to look up, if they really have a problem with it, tell them to look up Wynton Marsalis.
Yeah.
Wynton Marsalis is down on the pink. If you look at him, he's just like me. He's low. He's a low set upstream player, or what they would call a type 4 upstream. He's low set. I used to play, one of my professors in college he was a director of the band. Buddy Childers is another upstream player. Buddy, he was low too, Jack. He had a big, loud, strong sound up until the very end. You know, so what he has is what I have, and like I said, so long as he's conscious to not, because it is sensitive. I'm not going to say it's not. That's the difference between the guys that play up high and play up low. This is more sensitive because obviously it's a thinner skin, much thinner. Pardon me, much thinner membrane, so it's susceptible to more damage. So you just have to be careful. But I mean, my whole life practicing 8 hours a day, and I have some wear and tear on my embouchure just from the years of doing what I do. But I don't think it's necessarily any different than what any other trumpet player that's been playing for 30 years has come across. You know, So he's fine. I mean, I would, if he's got some concerns, I would maybe ask him to see somebody, but see somebody with an open mind. You know, like somebody like Bobby, who's not going to try and change an embouchure.
Well, I gave him your phone number, so all right.
Okay, yeah, no, perfect. I mean, and that's the good thing too, is that when you study with somebody that has a like embouchure, it's easier to communicate and when I was younger, there was certain teachers. I was very fortunate that I didn't have really any closed-minded teachers, but I did have friends that would tell me, "Oh, you know, my teacher said that your embouchure is messed up and you're gonna end up a bum because you're not gonna be able to play."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat. You know, I'm glad I'm in your mind. I'm glad you're thinking of me." But here I am, you know, 30 years later, and I still got a little bit of lip left, you know.
I got another question. This is from Georgette, and Georgette, she's a friend of mine in England, and she's heard you played with Maynard,
Oh
and the
yeah.
thing, and she asked me this.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah. 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 Wow.
she said, "How does Serafin? How does he project like that from?" She was at the end of the room and she could hear you as clear as day, and she said the mic was like maybe 20 feet away from you when she saw you. I guess she's asking about your projection. How do you go about?
First of all, hi Georgette. Thank you for
Mhm.
asking the question. Really appreciate you participating. And uh, I think a lot of it has to do with. Uh, so when I was a kid, it, it just clicked the way how he said it. But I'll just say so. A great trombone player in Los Angeles by the name of Alex Isles, who plays lead and plays classical and also is an improviser, and a phenomenal top tier musician in all of those what do you call it, in all those abilities, right? And I remember I was a kid. I was like 14 or 15, and he said, "Think your like your audience is that last person back there, right?" So a lot of it is mental, just visualizing. And I know that that might sound like a weird a way of some hocus pocus magic stuff or whatever, some new age things, but really a lot of this is mental, right? And if you set your mind to thinking of a specific task, your body will figure it out how to do it. Physically, what I'm doing is I have a more brilliant sound, so that's going to cut through, and that's equipment choice, right? And I'm really this is one from one of my coworkers that I play with around town. Probably one of the loudest trombone players I've not probably the loudest trombone player I've ever played with in my
Let me
life.
guess, Eric Jorgensen.
Yeah,
That guy's awesome, man.
yeah. I've it's this is the only, and I don't know how that's even possible on a trombone, but that can. I remember he was playing with the Eagles Stadium.
Yeah.
They were, and he was part of the horn section, and you can hear him over this stadium sound system. I
Wow.
don't understand. It's just some people are born like that too. But I remember he when I asked him about that too, I said, "Hey, Eric," I go, "Geez, you play so loud. What the? How is that possible?" And he says, "Well, I went to go see the Stan Kenton Orchestra, and Dick Sharir was playing lead, and boy, he could play loud. So I asked him, and he said, 'Kid, stop sucking on the horn.'" And then he walked away. So I guess the analogy or the takeaway from it is, make sure you're filling up your instrument.
Yeah.
This is one of those where it's going to take more air, right? To be able to, if your goal is to project,
Yeah.
there has to be a certain amount of brilliance to your sound. There also has to be a good amount of actual core to the sound, right? Just if it's just all sizzle and no body, that's not going to carry either.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of mentally visualizing it, uh, putting enough air through the horn, and making sure that you have the adequate sound for that kind of for projection. I mean, it's like a human voice. There's some people you can hear it when somebody talks, like, "Oh, that guy's got a thin voice." I bet you can't hear him. Like he's almost whispering. And
Yeah.
then there's other people that when you hear them talk, it's like, wow, they got a full resonant voice. And I guess that's maybe part of it too, is it's just the resonance of the voice being able to carry them. Maybe that's just your oral cavity, your throat, all those things in combination. But what you can do, if on top of the physical things, is make sure you put enough air through the horn, visualize where you want to aim. Another thing too, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about. There's acoustics everywhere, right? There's some kind of acoustic principle happening in every room you play in. And one thing that I've always been good at is that I can hear the slap back, right? And I'm sure everybody can too. So I'm always aiming to the most acoustically, the place in the house that's going to give me the best reference of myself,
Mhm.
no matter where it is. I mean, if I'm playing in a stadium, obviously that's not really going to work for me, right? But if I'm
Yeah.
playing in a hall, like I remember I used to play at this little a Spanish tapas restaurant in Long Beach called Cafe Sevilla.
Yeah.
No, is it Cafe Sevilla? Or I can't remember what it's called anymore.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's been so long. But anyways, this is a little Spanish joint, and they would do flamenco dancing, and it was a tiny little stage, literally fit 3 or 4 musicians max, and it was above the dining area, so you could look up. So I would play with a 4-piece salsa band there, and it was small, so the band director never wanted to give me a microphone. I'd be like, dude, you're killing me here, man. You guys are playing, electric bass, a percussionist, and a piano. You guys are cranked to 11. And you're not giving me a microphone. What's going on? I was, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. All right, whatever, man. So I remember one day I came early and I started playing around, and I found one place in the room where if I played into that place, it rang everywhere. And that kind of became my mission. I was probably 21 when I figured that. And then also for marching band too.
Yeah.
You're a kid, you're a kid. You always look for that one spot where that sweet spot in the stadium, in the audience, where you could just, if you play right into that, you hear it everywhere. You get that feedback, right? That reference. So all those things help with the projection. But I hope that answered her question, and thank you for the question.
Oh no, thank you. I got another question. This is from Randy. Randy asked, "How, Serafin, you played with Maynard Ferguson, you played with some of the Pacho Sanchez, and you played with some of the best in the business. What is the one thing you would give to someone who's up and coming, who wants to do the type of work you do?"
Choose your friends wisely. This business is a lot of word of mouth, both positive and negative, unfortunately. So you definitely can't. What's that old saying? You can make some of the people happy some of the time, but you can't make everybody happy all the time. So you just got to make sure you choose your allegiances. Who you become friends with, because those are usually the way how you're going to get into. That's usually the path you're going to get into a band. Is word of mouth. Your buddy. I can't think of one instance in my career where it wasn't because somebody pulled me in, and I don't think any professional would disagree with me in that. You know, Even when it comes to auditions, how do you find out about auditions? Because one of your buddies told you.
Yeah.
What if the person that told you weren't cool with, then you wouldn't have found out about that audition and you wouldn't get the gig. So, yeah, playing well is important, but I think what's even more important is having knowing who to friend. And I'm not saying this in a way to be conniving, right? Because you have to be yourself. Because let's face it, that type of behavior also is very prevalent in the music industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sycophants, a lot of bootlickers, and a lot of people that will tell you, make promises and blow smoke up your backside.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that guy either, because that guy, you could see him as soon as he walks in the room, and everybody usually is like, ah, boy, there comes that guy, right?
Yeah.
Or usually that guy has all the gigs and everybody's trying to do that to him too. It's a weird dichotomy. But so be yourself, right? Be cool. Um, Social etiquette is important, very important. Don't be late. Don't be a junkie. Seen plenty of great musicians lose top gigs because they just can't control their vices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not here to judge anybody. I definitely, when I was younger, I used to enjoy quite a few things, and but I never disrespected the stage, and I never disrespected. Uh, I'll take that back. I did it once, and I learned my lesson. I was 18. I had just started gigging, and I don't know if I should tell the whole story, but it's quite the. All right. So when I was younger, I was 18. I had to start working because I had a child on the way.
Yeah.
So I had to get whatever work I could get, and I started working in the Mexican scene, playing bandas. Right. I dropped out of high school and I worked in McDonald's, and that didn't work out, and I got a job playing trumpet. Right. So back then, those bandas were really popular. They're called techno bandas, not the ones with the tuba, with the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And I got this gig playing with this one band that was really popular in LA, and the guy had a lot of connections in low places, right?
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. So one day we at this New Year's party, we got called to play at this party for one of these people. Right. So they said, okay, let's meet at this place, and then they are going to take us there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So sure enough, there was a couple vans waiting for us. I'm naive, man. I'm 18. I didn't even know any of this stuff was going around. I barely knew what weed was back then, you know? I didn't even really fully comprehend what cocaine or heroin or any of these crazy drugs or stuff that I know now. So I had no idea about that life, right?
Mhm.
So we get in the vans, we're driving, and I notice we're driving and driving and going down to 10. And we keep going down to 10, and all of a sudden it's like we're out in the desert and we're passing Palm Springs. It's like, man, this is crazy. All right, whatever. All of a sudden, we get out to this part on the 10 where there's nothing but an Indian pointing that way. You know, I mean, we're like way out there. So they said, okay. And there was another car there. They kind of told us to cover ourselves up, went into this little road, took off into this road. And before you know it, we're in this house out in the middle of nowhere, just huge house, mansion, just amazing, beautiful thing. Pull up into the house. And then they take us to where the party's at, this huge patio, and they took us to this area off to the side, this huge stage. Said, okay, this is for you guys. That table right there, that's all for you. You guys go ahead and enjoy. Well, besides some other things, there was a massive amount of alcohol, massive amounts of that other thing too,
Yeah.
that keeps you awake for days and days and days and days. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But and I never touched that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's not just me. I like to relax. I don't like to
Yeah.
be wired. So I saw the alcohol and I said, well, they said, Dad, that's for you guys. You go ahead. Took a bottle of tequila, and just started going for it. And we just got there. We had like 2 hours before we had to play. Well, by the time the 2 hours, and I'm 18 years old. I'm green. I don't know anything. I don't know any better. So I went for it, and I drank and I drank, and I pretty much, we got up to play, and I was so blasted that my buddy got me from the back of the neck. Stop! Pulled me off the stage, sat me down, said, "Sleep it off." They finished the night, grabbed me, threw me in the back of the bus, but they threw me in the back of the van, passed out, right? And I kind of woke up in my house going, "What happened?" And then they told me the story of how much of a jerk I made out of myself,
Oh,
and
wow.
I promised to never do that again.
Yeah.
So I learned my lesson. Luckily, I didn't get fired. Everybody was laughing, which I'd rather they laughed than to lose my job, you know. So I went and I never ever disrespected the stage by getting alcohol or any type of recreational anything to get in the way of my craft.
Right.
So that would probably be my biggest suggestion. Be cool, be on time. Don't let your vices get in the way. Don't let anybody know that you have any problems with anything.
Yeah.
You know, if you got problems with drugs or alcohol, keep that to yourself, and that stuff shouldn't be on stage. And once you're able to control those things, because being out on the road, that stuff is there. It's in your face. I mean, especially the higher up you go, the more people want to give you that stuff, and then it becomes a real challenge of if that's you're predisposed to that, is to be able to stay away from it enough to not let it get in the way of work. And like I said, I've seen so many amazing musicians just lose everything because they don't know how to control themselves. They can't pace themselves.
Yeah.
They can't say no. You know, being able to say no is important, not just to gigs that suck, but also to situations that could make you lose the good gigs.
All right. Um, I think the next question kind of piggybacks off that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is from Charlie. Charlie talks about he's a band leader, actually, a friend of mine in Vegas. He says, Serafin, now with the social media aspect, uh, uh, very very much involved with music. How do you feel about these things on stage?
You
Selfies,
know,
videos. How do you feel about that?
you know, it's kind of hard, man, because I lost a great connection because of this stupid shit here. Pardon my language.
That's all
Probably one of
right.
those. Probably be one of the few times you'll hear me on camera using that type of language. But
Yeah,
really, this is it's a beautiful thing and it's a horrible thing at the same time. And I was in a great situation, growing musical situation with people that I loved and respected who are now at the pinnacle, what I would consider the pinnacle of the modern jazz movement.
yeah,
Um, but I had that stupid thing on the stage. This is like maybe 2008, 2009, around there. And, this is before social media. I was just being stupid, man. I was being irresponsible. And I was texting somebody, right? And as a result, I ended up losing a friend, and because it's a passionate project that we were involved in. So he sees me there, texting my girlfriend at the time. And he's like, yo, take care of your business on your time. With that being said, I'm glad that these things weren't around when I was younger, because, boy, I'll tell you what, it's hard you can't make a mistake with these things around anymore.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So the learning process is very hindered as a result of having these things around. Because imagine all the mistakes you made as a kid, coming up. I know what I did, and there are some times that I laid some eggs, There's some nights that I laid enough bricks you can make a chimney.
Yeah.
And if these phones, if this crap was around back when I was doing that, I probably might not have the career I have now. So it's a great tool, but by the same token, people don't know. Unfortunately, socially speaking, people are losing social etiquette.
Yeah.
Like, in my humble opinion, rehearsals, practices, dress rehearsals, all that stuff, unless it's tip top, I don't want to see one of these things. I don't want to see you on Instagram or Facebook Live or Snapchat or whatever new stupid app, on Zoom or whatever it is that you're doing, without my permission first.
Yeah.
Because most likely, if it's a rehearsal, it's because we're getting together to figure some stuff out. And you know what? I don't need people to see crappy things. I'm all about keeping it real. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I keep it very real. I keep it 100.
Yeah.
But if I'm worried about looking good because of a stupid phone, that's gonna make me make a mistake. So I don't necessarily like them around. Live performances, I get it. You can make your business card with these now. It's no longer about actual physical business card. People need to see you perform. I get that. But it does get a little bit annoying when everybody in the bandstand is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the drummer with one hand, and the camera.
Yeah.
This is so great. Look, oh my God, I'm the shit. Look at me. I can't stand that. I'm all for self promotion. I believe in it. I think that it's a very important tool in modern times. I'm not going to be one of those guys that goes around putting down other musicians for publicizing themselves and for putting up their accolades up on social media. Facebook, Instagram, whatever other thing is out there. I applaud you guys wholeheartedly. I'm with you, and I'll give you a like. I'm not going to give you a thumbs down or hate on you, but I do believe that it should be done with some amount of taste.
Yeah.
If you're concentrating here the whole show, you're not concentrating there. And really, your focus should be the audience, right? Your focus should be the people, because they're paying you a lot of money in some cases to see you play. And if you're over here engaging with this thing, you're not engaging with them. And I've seen it where people be like, yo, what's this guy doing? This guy's a jerk. I'm over here and he's over here. Why is that? Why is that going on? So you have to find that balance, Take a few clips, so do a couple of little lives and shout outs and be like, yo, I'm here, I'm doing my thing, come on down. And you're about to do a good solo. Yeah, go ahead, take your video. But if you're just playing time or you're just in the middle of a groove, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
You want to hype up your audience and, oh, look, man, I'm playing to a huge audience. I get that. I feel that. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But the whole time, there has to be a little bit of separation.
Right.
There has to be you have to focus on your audience.
And I've even heard, to add to that, Serafin, and I don't know if you can vouch for this, but when you're in studio sessions where, it's a project that they've worked hard on to keep secret, and when they release, I know that I've seen people get fired for taking pictures of scores. That
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
So, would you? For the youngsters out there, I think that goes with just don't disrespect the stage. If it's not something, if you have to ask yourself, is this okay? It's probably not.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I first got into Luis Miguel's band, we were first rehearsal. We had just finished like an epic 10-hour day, and Luis Miguel came to hear the band. He liked it, and he's like, "Hey, come on, guys, let's hang out, on the sofa." And and this is why I don't even mess around with phones around celebrities anymore. I had my phone like this. I was texting my girl at the time, right? Well, guess what? He's sitting down in front of me with a glass of wine, a very expensive bottle. You could see everything right there. Everybody's around. He's right in front of me in his suit, right? And I'm doing this, not even thinking about the fact that, what's that right there? That's a camera. He's looking at me. Luis Miguel is one of the most videotape, photograph, controversial guys because he doesn't allow people to videotape or photograph him. He's an enigma, right? So he wants to keep himself that way. And really, it's a private moment. There's no reason for him to have to even worry about that. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, I'm texting, and I'm not even paying attention, and I just kind of see him doing this.
Wow.
So I didn't think much of it. I go, whatever, man. I put the phone away. I walk away. And then as I'm walking away, I just, the MD says, hey, what were you doing? I was texting my girl, man. Says, you mind if I see your phone? Yeah, sure. Here you go. And he looked, he goes, all right. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't taking any pictures of him. And I go, taking pictures of him? And he goes, yeah, man. He's got a real. He thought you were videotaping him, and he asked me to fire you right now if there were any pictures of him on your phone. And I was like, oh my God. Wow. And it was just something innocent, like me just saying, hey, I'm on my way and we're done rehearsing. Yeah. I'll see you later. I'll see you in 15, 20 minutes. It was that innocent. But I think in any of those situations, those are private moments usually. Yeah. I've been in sessions where they'll tell you, hey, turn off your phone right now. But for the most part, it's going to be turn off your phone. You don't want to be distracted anyways, right? If you're in a studio, you're probably sight reading. At least I am. 9 times out of 10, I'm sight reading something. So I don't need to see this. I don't need to be distracted by this. This is like a shiny object to a little monkey. I see it and I want to go play my video games or something. Yeah. So this is an airplane mode in my case, away from me. Before the session, if I see my friends and say, hey, what's up? Click, click. We're here at we're at Capitol. Studio. What's up? Wish you were here. Take my pictures, give a couple shout outs, do my work, and then I go for the phone and I check in and see what's up. But while I'm in a session or I'm in these high profile situations, I mean, it goes to the fact that if you do a high profile job like that, you're gonna have to sign an NDA anyways. Yeah. So it's like it's already in there. Every big recording session that I've done, whether it's Taylor Swift or Camilla or Terrence Howard, or movie soundtracks, they all say that they start off with that. There's your NDA. There's your non-disclosure agreement. So if you have to sign an NDA, you probably shouldn't be walking around with your phone going, "Hey, look at that! Look at this! Hey!" Because you probably won't make it to the first cut. Yeah,
I mean that's the thing that I think young people. They think that they can validate their careers by this, and that's not that's not the way. And I'm glad you reiterated that, because a lot of teachers who that's another question I'm going to ask you, and this is my question to you. I wanted to ask a question for me, so I hope
that's of course. Come on. No, you can't. No,
so Serafin, when I went to college, I chose my instructor on his background, who he played with, the work he did, and now I'm seeing in academia that, they're getting their bachelor's, their master's, and their doctorate, and they're not going on the road like you and I have, or they're not working the town for 15, 20 years and then going back, so I've noticed a lot of students in academia coming out not knowing what you and I know, not knowing that a conductor can give two rats tails about your feelings. A contractor does not care about your if you have anxiety. And so a lot of the younger players that are coming through these institutions with these teachers that have not worked, as like you, that have, because again, when I chose my teacher, I was like, who is this guy played with? Who is he? I want to learn from that guy, right? Yeah. And so, anyway, when you have a student come to you and they kind of lack the stuff that you feel that they should already know, what do you tell them? Like, say, I'm noting kids coming out of college not really knowing how to read. You know, I'm hearing kids coming out of college that don't know how to take a solo on a blues. You know, or that, you know, I mean, I'm hearing all these. I mean, some college players are killer, but I'm hearing a lot of these guys coming out with the tools that they don't have to work in the real world like you are. Um, so I guess my question is, what would you tell a student that you see these things that are lacking? What's the first thing you would say to them, or teach them, or help them?
Geez, that's a lot of
I know that's a lot of.
that's a lot of information to try to cover. So I think unfortunately we live in an era where uh, too much stuff is let slide for the sake of providing protection for the student
Yeah.
or for the child, and that's created a situation that is not conducive to the real world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember when my oldest son was pardon me. Remember when my oldest son was doing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I shied away from sports. Everybody got a trophy. They didn't keep score. There was no winners or losers. And in my mind, I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. But in real life, there are winners, there are losers.
Yeah.
And losing is not bad. You know, it sucks, but
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a great teaching tool.
Yeah.
Not getting what you want at first is okay because it builds character. You know, and I see I've seen it. My son, my oldest now is my oldest boy
Mm-hmm.
is what 12, 13 now, and I see how much things have de-evolved since then.
Yeah.
That I kind of see why these kids are the way they are. There's a lot of coddling going on. There's a lot of gingerly trying to teach kids things, and I don't know that that's necessarily the right way.
Yeah.
My father is in his 80s. He's old school, and I'm in my 40s, so I guess I'm old school too in that respect.
Right.
You know, my dad was born on a ranch. If you did the wrong thing, you could die.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way how he brought me up. And I'm not saying that you have to be a taskmaster and to be, just ultra militant and but I do think that if somebody doesn't do something they're supposed to do, if your student isn't doing something they're supposed to be doing, then they need to be told, hey, you know what, you're messing up. Um, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I used to have a jazz teacher that he would literally make you pay first, and you walked in, you sat down, and like within 5 or 10 minutes, if you would jive, he'd be like, you're lying, you got to go. Like, wait a minute, man, I just paid you. Ah, nope, you're not gonna waste my time. So I'm gonna take your money. It's gonna hurt you, but next week you're gonna come prepared. The same thing happened with my other teacher, Tony Lujan. Tony used to teach me for free.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Scott
Who's
Engelbright is
this?
here. Scott Engelbright. Hey, Scott, how you doing,
Uh-oh.
man?
Scotty, what's going on, dude?
Hey, Scotty, I'm gonna turn on your. If it's cool, man, I'm gonna turn
My
on
name
your.
comes up. Oh damn!
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
turn
think.
on your.
I just
Your
want to see
video.
if this thing. I just wanted to see if this thing worked.
Hey, Scott.
What's that ring for, Scott?
A ring? That's a bracelet.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh, wow, that's a
Nah,
crazy.
just some silly bracelet.
Gotcha. Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. Just hanging out.
Looking
That's all
good,
this
bro.
thing. And
Yeah.
how you doing? How's LA?
Same old, same
Yeah,
old.
yeah. You looking good, dude?
Trying to keep up with you, Slim.
How much weight have you lost now?
125 was the last number that I got.
Holy moly!
Eating steaks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I think I've gained a little bit over this during this pandemic.
Yeah, I kind of let go a little bit myself. Trying to cook for the kids and give them. They're gonna get bored of just eating steak, so I try to feed them all kinds of goodies, and I'll end up sneaking one in myself, and
Yeah.
it's caused it's caused some problems. That and the red wine.
Yeah,
Well,
my problem is the sweets.
Yeah, I have a. That's why we don't keep any sweets in the house. If it's in the house, especially if it's chocolate,
Yeah,
I will kill somebody for chocolate.
yeah, that's a
So
big problem.
it cannot be in the house, man. You'll probably get a stiff arm, as I'm going to
Yeah.
get it. I'll give you the Heisman move, you know.
Hey,
Cool.
Scott, it's great seeing you, man. For those
Yeah,
of you
you
who
too.
don't know Scott's a fellow Maynard alum, working in New York City, an amazing trumpet player. And Scott, I hope you don't mind me. I mean, they're like, "Who's this guy?" You know. So, I mean,
Whatever you want, dude. I just came by to
Scott,
say hi. I wasn't planning on staying. I just want to let you guys do your thing.
well, we have you here, so I'm curious. If you were asking me about efficiency, have you seen the way how Scott plays? Have any of you seen the way how Scott plays?
I
You want to
have.
talk about efficiency? This guy is the model of efficiency. There's a video. Well, there's countless videos of him, but the one that always used to freak me out is, first of all, the UNT one,
Oh God.
where you're playing where you're playing Maynard Ferguson,
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it really looks like you're asleep the whole way through. And then there's a couple of other Maynard videos where you're playing lead up to, some ridiculous like double D's, high G's. And it's really, I think maybe that was probably my first model of like, you know what? If he's making it look that easy, there's got to be something to it. And trying to figure out how to do it, I haven't quite figured it out as well as you did. But maybe you could tell us what did you think about, or what do you think about, or what did you do to focus to be able to play so efficiently?
Jeez, dude, I'm the very wrong person to ask that question.
No, I know you're a natural. I know you're a natural in that respect. So it might be difficult for you to.
Yeah.
That's I don't know a whole lot of the things I do. That's one of the reasons I really don't teach. So I don't want to
Yeah,
like BS a lot of people.
yeah. No, I get that. I get that.
Well, if
Made
you
it-
guys see, if you guys watch the Blue Devil videos that Scott's on, he makes it look simple too.
Oh, Scott Stewart.
Oh, Scott Stewart.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, Scott.
This one is Engelbright, not Stewart.
I know. I had a senior moments. Forgive me, Scott. Forgive me.
No, but check out the videos that he does, and you can see it's very very apparent that there's a whole lot of right going on in the way how he does things.
Yeah, and Scott's actually one of the funniest guys. We had and God rest his soul. We had a mutual friend, John Ruff, and
Yeah.
John would tell me stories about you, Scott, and I was like, man, I can't wait to meet that dude. You know, he said that you were just
Yeah, his memorial thing's coming up this week or something. Is it this week
Yeah.
or next week?
I think Christina said it was this week. Yeah.
16th maybe?
Yeah.
17th? I can't remember. Yeah, I really love to go out there and be part of it, but just can't.
We can't do anything
I
much right
barely, I'm not sure if I want to get on a plane during all this stuff that's going on, and I really can't afford it either. Even though stuff is cheaper, it's like I can barely afford to pay my rent right now.
Mm,
now. Yeah, I know.
Especially being in New York.
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joseph.
I was going to say, Scott, where are you in New York? Are you outside the city?
No, I'm in Manhattan, like.
Oh,
Oh, it's Manhattan, most expensive place in the world. That's all.
No, we live in Harlem.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
Get your
Yeah,
Mo
it's
Better
cool.
Blues on, man.
it's a cool area. Yeah, we enjoy it. We've been here almost a year now. I think we moved here it was last November. We moved here the end of last November.
That's cool, man. Apparently you're doing well out there, Scott. So that's awesome. I mean,
Gigs were everything seemed to going pretty well, until the pandemic started.
Yeah, you guys got hit horribly, right? Because you ended up in Broadway, which is the place everybody wants to be, and it seems like as soon as you got there,
Yeah,
like a pandemic hit.
my first year on Broadway was awesome. I subbed on like I don't know, maybe like 160 shows or something.
Wow.
And yeah, then like February came around and stuff started slowing down. Yeah, then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. It's like nothing. Everything was shut down.
So Scott, what's and I apologize for Serafin, but this is very helpful to people, for students who want to go to New York right now. Scott, what's the scene like in New York right now?
I don't think there is anything going on really.
At all? Like nothing? Like are things slowly opening up, or is it just...
My wife and I were on a bike ride today, and we did actually see a little like rock band or something playing outside this restaurant. You see little things like that. I mean, Broadway's not going to be open until at least next summer, probably. Maybe the fall. We saw a band a couple weeks ago at a nearby park. I mean, there's not really much going on. Yeah. I haven't played it. The last gig I played was February 6th, I think.
Is Serafin? Is
yes, sir.
Is Los Angeles the same way too?
Los Angeles is messed up, and there's I see little like coffee shops trying to do some like live music outside and stuff like that, but major studio work. I know that my buddy Javier, they're recording live, Dancing with the Stars right now. So I'm so happy for him and everybody in that band, because that's a nice little chunk of change, and they're working and they're making it. But as far as I don't know anybody else that's working other than them, like in legit big stuff. I don't know. There's no shows. The Amundsen's closed. Pantages is closed. Whittier or Lambrada's closed. Everything is closed. All the major venues are closed. I see some people like doing like some little underground salsa things around town, but I wouldn't step foot in anything like that. I mean, that's like going to have sex with a hooker without protection. I mean,
what's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, you mean you don't do that? You're supposed to?
Oh,
no,
wow.
And I say it bluntly like that because that's how I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting on a plane. I'm not getting in a bus. I'm not going to a club. I mean, I got kids. I got a family here, and I just don't want to expose anybody. And I got high blood pressure, and I smoked for 30 years, and I was a bad boy back when I was younger. So I'm definitely not the epitome of health now. So why am I going to go expose myself to something that could potentially kill me just because I want to get $80, $100, $200, whatever? It's not worth it. I'll wait it out. I'm totally cool waiting it out. And I just get to practice more, which is fine by me.
So Scott, now that I have you here, I talked to a lot of Maynard alum. I've had a couple on this webinar, and I've asked Serafin this, but every Maynard alum has what they call a Maynard moment, where either it was something he did on stage or something he said to you. I mean, now that I have you here, can I just ask you that question, bro? Is it cool?
Sure, I guess so. My Maynard moment, I guess, was probably 2 weeks after I got on the band. We were playing a gig in Vermont, and most of the time we were traveling on the bus, but we had to play in Chicago the next night, so we didn't have time to take the bus there. And so, our bus dropped us off at the airport, and I started going through security. And I had this extra big bag. I'd like put like a couple things of clothes in, and my trumpet case, in case of things like that, where I didn't just needed to go for a couple days. My I noticed it was a little light, and I left my trumpet on the bus. And so I mean it was freaking out a little bit, you know. But we're going to Chicago, and you know, it wasn't a real problem getting a horn and a mouthpiece to me. I think I used one of Larry Foyen's trumpet mouthpieces. And
you were in the band with Larry?
what? Yeah, I was on there with Larry.
Oh wow!
And anyway, you know, the gig was fine, everything. But what was funny was when we got back, when the gig was over, and we flew back and we got back to the bus. I went back to my bunk to get my trumpet. You know, just because I hadn't seen it in a couple of days. And, I go back there and go back to my bunk, and my trumpet's not there. And now I'm starting to really freak out. I'm like, did I leave it at a hotel like the night before that we left, or what? I had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, I hear Maynard playing taps on my trumpet from the front of the bus. I was like,
that sounds like Maynard.
Because the whole time I was like freaking out, like, oh man, I really screwed up. I'm gonna be fired. I've only been on here a couple of weeks, and so no, I learned that it wasn't really that big of a deal, and no, Maynard had a great sense of humor, so it was fun.
That's a cool story, man.
He was not above pranking anybody. Nobody was sacred in that band. Everybody got pranked. Everybody got. I definitely got pranked myself a few times, but
yeah, I guess Ed Sargent had gotten to the bus before everyone else and went to my bunk and got my trumpet and gave it to Maynard. And as soon as I went back there, he took it out and started playing taps. It was funny.
Gosh, and Serafin and Scott both. I mean, Scott, you worked LA as well, for a short time, from what I understand. And
Barely.
Yeah.
I think I was only there for about a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. But let me ask you something. Both of you being Maynard alum, having these names, being, lead trumpet in Maynard's band, and then going to a demographic like Los Angeles where everybody has a name, everybody's played with everybody else. How did you guys kind of say, well, I got to stand out in a way, or I got to make myself marketable amongst all these, great players? Like, what was the thing that you guys did when you got to the town? Did you call your contacts? Did you, what was the thing? Like for you, Serafin, what was the thing
that got me in the door?
Yeah, when you came back off of Maynard's band.
Well, I mean, and I think Scott is the same way. There's an old saying in Spanish: "Cría fama y échate a dormir." Right? Yeah. It basically says, create notoriety and you can sleep after that because people will know who you are. And I think with me, as I progressed through my career, progressed through my evolution, more and more people would know. Like I told you, it's who you know more than what you know, as they say, the old Training Days movie, yeah. Right? It's not who you know, it's what you know, right? So people knew me, and the more I did jobs, oh, he was on this, so he's cool with those people, he's going to be cool with us. And every situation was like that, where everything just built on the previous relationship, so long as it was a positive one, right? If it's a negative one, then that'll also have its ramifications too. But a positive outcome from a tour just means you're going to get more work,
Yeah. And for Scott, what about, because you and Johnny Dias had the Tasty Bros thing going, and that was really big, and I remember as a kid listening to that going, oh man, that's so cool. They're playing the Hummel 3 octaves up, that was awesome. So like when you got off Maynard's band, you went to LA, like what was the game plan?
I think I asked one of the people I called was Rick Baptist. I don't think he knew who I was or anything, or I knew who he was. I told him, what I've done. I just gotten off of Maynard's band, and he told me he told me just go down to the union and listen to all the bands. Get some cards made up. Just go up to the drum players, introduce yourself, and say, hey, if you ever need a sub for a rehearsal any day, anytime, any day, I'll be there. That's exactly what I did.
And then
Yeah.
you actually went to Northern California, am I right, Scott? Afterwards, you went up north.
Well, yeah, I was there in LA for about a year and a half, and I met my first wife up there, who was also a trumpet player, and actually half the time I was in LA, like the second year I was there, most of the time I was out on the road. I went back out on the road again with Paul Anka. So most of the time I was out on the road. And when I came back, all I was doing was driving up to San Francisco. So good to see my ex-wife up there. But so I decided just to move there.
Oh wow! So
I was in the Bay Area from like 2001 to 2018. I wasn't in LA very long at all.
Yeah. Scott, a friend of mine, Russ Capri, talks very highly of you. I guess
nice.
he was on the band with you, I guess, at a certain time with Bobby Caldwell, I think.
I played on Bobby Caldwell's band for a couple of years with him.
Yeah.
Great player. Is he still living out in the Phoenix area?
He's still out here. He's semi-retired. He only plays when he needs to, But he's for the most part he's retired though, So Serafin, first of all, thank you so much I don't want to take too much of your time, and we're over time. And Scott, man, that was so awesome of you to come in, bro. I really appreciate you coming in.
Oh yeah, I didn't know how long you were going or anything. I just came in to say hello. I didn't mean to take over the whole thing.
Oh no. That's
damn it,
man.
Scott.
I mean,
stop stealing my thunder, dude.
Yep.
No, I mean, like I said, John spoke so highly of you, and I was like, man, one day I would really like to meet Scott. Who's out here too, Scott, is the guy Dave. He lives in Sedona. He played lead with Matt Cattengroup. Dave. Oh gosh. Anyway, if I said Sean Billings is here, guy.
All right, get him on.
Sean Billings just joined, so let's say.
Oh.
So Sean, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, sorry. Hey guys.
He is there.
Hey, what's
Sean.
up,
Hey,
dude?
Sean.
Did you just send me that text, Serafin, or did I miss it?
No, I just sent it to you. I figured if it's gonna be a party, let's make it a party, man.
That's right. So for those of you who don't know, Sean Billings is another LA studio pro. He plays lead with Brian Setzer. A ton of studio. He plays all over the LA area, and he's an amazing player. And if you want to see some cool stuff, go on the Audio Technica website on their mic choices and how to play into a mic, and you'll see Sean. Yeah. So
he's all mic.
Yeah. So Sean, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Sure. I just want to point out this is the first time I've seen Serafin in a tie and a coat. So
I know.
Looks good.
Well, the thing is, first of all, screw you guys. And second of all, I was talking actually I did another one of these a couple days ago, and he asked me, why are you so dressed up? I go, well, I mean, I know all of you guys have seen like the old school videos of all the old jazz guys, right? How slick they were. And when you see Miles Davis, for example, with his Italian cut Brooks Brothers suits, and also with in modern times with Wynton Marsalis, and he's always sharp, he's always looking awesome. So I don't know, if I do these, I kind of want to keep that tradition going of looking sharp, and I got to make up for my sucky playing. So at least I look good.
That's cool. Well, you look great, and then especially the bow tie last time was a nice touch. I like that, the bow tie.
Yeah. I like I said, I was doing something else before this, so that's why I had the tie on. But I like the bow ties too. Yeah, it's either trumpet playing or I'm a part of the Nation of Islam selling bean pies.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. So again, you know, I got Scott, I got Sean, I got Serafin. Uh, I guess I'm gonna ask, since I got you guys here, if it's cool, man. If it's cool, if if you had one like short sentence or short thing to say to the kid in college right now who's thinking, man, do I really want to go into the music business? And we'll start with Seraphine. What would you tell him?
Stick with it. If it's something that you truly love and truly have a passion for, you're not going to be happy doing anything else. And I think all of us can speak to this, and honestly agree with this, that you don't do music to be financially solvent. You do music because you love it, and you have either something to say or you have something you feel that other people would enjoy, and that's why you hone your skills, and that's why you eventually go to college for this. This is not the venture to get into if you're looking to make money, and if you're looking to get famous. Trumpet is definitely not the way to do it. I do this, and you'll probably do this because you love it. Stick with it, and eventually you'll find your niche, like all of us have.
And so we'll go to you, Scott. What would you say to the kid right now, sitting with his trumpet, saying, "Do I really want to do this?"
Jeez, I don't know what to say after that.
Did I get all Hallmark on you? Is that what happened?
TLC channel.
I tell them be prepared to practice 6 to 8 hours a day for many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to definitely maybe have some kind of backup plan if it doesn't work out. You know, be prepared to wait right now, because you know it's going to be a long time before a lot of people are going to be performing anywhere. I don't know.
Wait a minute. I thought COVID was supposed to be done the day after the election.
Oh yeah.
So that brings us to Mr. Billings. That brings us to Sean. Sean, what would you say to, like, again, some of your students that are like, do I really want to do this?
Yeah, I kind of piggyback on what both Scott and Serafine were saying, but I always kind of tell people that if you want to do it, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And for me, and I only can kind of comment on like what I did, but I I always focus on making sure that it's music that I want to play and not necessarily music that I have been told like, oh, you should be playing this kind of stuff or you should be going after gigs like this and like that. I always tell people, just in my experience, I always went after things that I wanted to do, and there's certain styles of music that I can appreciate, but it's not necessarily what I'm interested in. And so I don't waste my time going after that just because, I mean, obviously you get more experience in figuring out what you're into, but I always kind of went after this stuff that I wanted to do, which was kind of more original music and just kind of being involved with that kind of circle. So that was kind of my reasoning. So I never had this epiphany of like, oh, I want to be a trumpet player. It was always kind of, I enjoyed what I was doing and this kind of made sense. And let's just keep on doing that. And to this day, the guys that minus like trumpet players, but like non-trumpet player guys, the ones that I work with or hire me are guys that I knew when I was like 18, 19, doing like garage band and stuff like that. Not the program garage band, but doing like
Yeah.
in someone's garage, kind of working stuff out. So I always tell people that if you kind of go after the music that you want to play, it'll work itself out. And then obviously kind of what Scott was saying and Serafine, it's like
Mm.
there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the music industry that you have absolutely no control over. And if you let that bring you down, then you're going to have issues with it. So that's kind of my take on it, and that's the way I kind of view it, in a perfect world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Surfing.
If I may also to expand on that, I think you hit a very, very important point there in being yourself, which is something that I've talked about throughout our talks. Is growing up in LA, Scotty's from the Santa Barbara area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
So
Scotty?
Kingsburg. He's from
I'm
Kingsburg.
from Kingsburg,
That's right, man.
Central California.
Central
Reedley,
Cali boys.
Reedley.
Yeah.
Central Cali boy. And then we have Sean, it's also from Southern California. He's OC guy. And myself, I'm from LA. But for those of us on the West Coast, our aspiration at some point, maybe I'm speaking a little too liberally here, was at some point to try to be involved in the studio scene, because that's what's huge here. And that's what everybody says you have to be. And I know I spent a small part of the beginning of my career thinking that that's a direction I wanted to go to. But the reality is it's a hard circle to get into for reasons that we all already know. It's controlled by a certain, I'll just leave it at that. Certain entities.
Yeah.
So, and it is what it is, man. It's not for everybody. And had I listened to myself and been more true to myself from the beginning, I'd probably be further down the path that I wanted to be. But, chasing after things that necessarily I shouldn't have, because I should have seen the writing on the wall and how fruitless they were going to be. But my youth and inexperience kind of, just being headstrong and, I'm going to do it and try to do it. I could have focused on other things and been further down my career. So I think Sean made a good point of be true to yourself, take on things and work on things. Obviously, like Scott said, 6 to 8 hours, you're not going you have, it's kind of a rite of passage because of the nature of this instrument. And there's certain things you have to do that might not be that pleasant or might be kind of boring to do. But the geist of Sean's message, which is he stuck to what he liked to do, primarily in terms of his profession. And the result is that he's been successful at what he does. Once I focused on the things that I liked, I became successful at what I truly like doing. And same thing goes for Scott. There's a finite amount of room in the quote unquote recording industry here in Los Angeles, and it's shrinking up quickly.
Yeah, it's a pie that's diminishing by the day.
Yeah. It's like it's like a pond in the Serengeti Desert in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Every day there's less and less work, and that's why the guys that are doing it are like really not letting anybody else in, but a certain few, which is fine, because you know what, the rest of us, I got a studio here in my house and I record just as much as anybody else. Sean has a studio in his house. He does the same thing. I'm sure if Scotty wasn't in New York living in an apartment with a neighbor that was busting his balls every 5 seconds, every time he pulled out the trumpet, even though it's muted, he'd be doing the same thing. So the studio scene that so many people strive to get in, be a part of, or ingratiate themselves with, is no longer what it was, and it'll never be like that. Us that are doing what we're doing now, we've kind of taken over the lead, and we do a lot of studio work, just not, it might not be at Capitol Studio A, or at East West, or at Oceanside, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that is going to be going out for productions that would have normally gone to one of those studios.
I'd like to kind of get on what you were saying, Serafin. It's like I'm really curious to see in the next year or two going down the road. I mean, obviously the technology is there where if you're self-financing a record, or you're a producer and you're working on something, you can literally call anybody, any musician in the world, and have them record anywhere. I did it for my record a couple of years ago. I needed a flute player, and my favorite flute player lives down in Cuba. And through a couple emails and phone calls and some shenanigans, he recorded the flute solos for my record in Paris, sent them online. So it's like the technology is there where it's like you don't, I know we've all given master classes and someone's like, oh, I want to move to LA and blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like, man, you don't really have to anymore.
Yeah.
And
I did a session for this electronic music guy where he did some of it on his own, right? Because it's electronic. He sent the track out to an orchestra in Prague, and they literally did the arrangement there. put on a whole freaking symphony on top of this thing, right? That he did this EDM project or EMD or whatever, electronic music, whatever it's called, right? EM, I don't know. And
Yes.
then he brought it, but then he came back to LA and we recorded a horn section over it. You know, I did a project for a Christian singer in Argentina where I did the horn arrangements. He sent me the track, and I literally wrote out a Jerry Hay kind of thing for him, and then I recorded everything here, sent it back to him. He had the guitars recorded in Mexico, some of the rhythm section in Argentina, some of it done in Europe. I mean, all over the world, you know. And I know you've done stuff like that. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure Scott has done stuff like been involved with projects like that where the studio's the world now with the way how things are. Yeah. There's great. I mean, if you have that kind of money to spend, you know, sure, go out to the big studios, but for the most part, nobody's really going to be doing that. You know, even the stuff with Camilla, technically, that was a very high end home studio where that was recorded. You know, where these guys are at, it's an office. You know, the producer and that stuff that I did with Taylor Swift, same thing.
Is that where we did the Selena Gomez stuff?
Selena Gomez, the same. You know. Technically, that's what the guy just sings stuff to us and then we record it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to know how to. At that point, you don't have to know how to read music. You just have to have good ears. You know, just to pick stuff up on the fly.
I just got this question, and now that all three of you are on, I'm getting more people jumping on this. This is awesome, guys. Just
all right. No, Sean doesn't do that. Just to answer you, no, Sean doesn't do that anymore.
Okay. All right. So this is the question. And
she was 18.
Yeah. It was on the road. It didn't count.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Was that a Giuliani moment
Mike
there?
Mike has told me about you. So here's the question, guys. So this is from Robin. She's a college grad student. She said that I understand that LA, when you get to LA, you can meet a lot of strong personalities, and I don't like getting vibed when I'm on a gig. Well, again, I'm trying to word this correctly. How do you deal with when you're on a gig and someone's vibing you? And I mean, she doesn't want to lose her concentration. She doesn't want to get fired, but if someone's vibing you on a gig, I'm sure all of you have been through that when someone's in your section and they're not digging you or they're vibing you. What are some of the things you've done to just get through it?
Yeah. Can I go first on this? And
go for it, Sean. Go for it, Sean.
I'm kind of curious.
No, hold on. I'm vibing Sean.
Yeah. Yeah. My first answer would be like, if Serafin's on the gig with me, then I'll let him handle it.
Exactly. It says, don't call me if he's on the gig, for starters.
Yeah.
The vibe starts before the gig actually happens.
Yeah. I think, and I'm being totally honest here, and I think, Serafin, you and I have talked about it. I think the guys and girls that can be vibey, I think this is in any town, or the ones that we would like kind of say B-list players, where they haven't quite gotten to where they thought they were going to be, and they're just kind of angry at the world. My personal experience, I've actually never been like on a real, high level gig and had some vibiness or some aggression that wasn't like completely like in an honest way. So I don't get that experience. And I think that if you do, you'll find that person is coming from a spot of like kind of self anger, where it's like they're mad that they're not getting these big calls or they're not, on this particular gig. And so they're going to take it out on somebody. Seraph and I grew up together playing. I don't know if you agree with me, man, but like in some of the salsa scene, the guys that were like the worst to deal with weren't even like full-time musicians. And so it would be kind of like, yo, man, like, don't even listen to that fool because, Cat works at a car dealership or whatever, Mm-hmm. And so.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all. Not at all. But
sorry, that was my Seinfeld moment.
Yeah. And I've been, when I was younger and been in situations where you're not playing as good as you could, you make a mistake. My experience from these high level players is they're usually very kind of nurturing, like, hey man, it's cool. Like, work on this, try to do this. or if it's something, it's kind of a learning experience. It's never been like, well, you suck, man. Like, what are you doing here? I've never experienced that, and I think I would hope that that's kind of a trend at the elite level. And I think when it does happen, it's been in situations where just jive musicians or whatnot. So to answer her question, I would try to put yourself, if you were to move to town, I mean, obviously do as many gigs and meet as many people as you find. And I think really quickly you will find out the guys and girls that are a pain in the ass to work with, and you just ignore it. I know Serafin and I have a very small list of guys that will be like, who else is playing? And then we'd be like, no, or yeah, of course we're doing it. So
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. You'll find that like skipping out on a little paycheck here and there for your mental health is going to be a lot better in the long run. So that's just my experience. I some of these high level people you meet a lot, most of the time they're real genuine and pretty chill. Again, it's the people that just have other issues of their life that they're not happy with, and they're taking it out on everybody else. That's my experience. I could be totally wrong, but that's kind of the way I approach it. So, and yeah, and if someone's vibing you, just play your ass off and play better, and then they can't say anything. So
Yeah, I'm of the same mentality. Usually, I've been fortunate to be in both situations where I've been in nurturing situations and I've been in very negative situations work wise. Uh, and they're both great, I think, because first of all, the nurturing situation helps you grow in the way that it helps you develop maybe some aspects of your playing, and you get some character references to what you want to aspire to be. And in the negative situations, you really find out a lot about yourself. I was in a bad situation for a few years, and all I could do is just play better. Like Sean said, if it's somebody, it's sometimes you're not gonna make everybody happy. Unfortunately, there's gonna be people that are not gonna like you, for whatever reason. You talk a certain way, you walk a certain way, you do things that they do, because a lot of times it'll be like that, or it'll be like a trumpet player's like, oh man, another high note trumpet player, shit, there goes my gig, and that's a lot of times where those insecurities stem from. Or oh man, another Latino on the gig, man. You know what? I want to be the only Latino on the gig. I've seen that too. I've experienced that too.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I've experienced that one. Or the young guy. Oh crap, this young guy, he doesn't know anything. I've experienced all those situations. So what I found is that that's also a great opportunity to learn. First of all, how not to be, and second of all, how to be able to put on the blinders. Because really, at that point, you need blinders. Because sometimes you're getting daggers thrown at you. You just like, or like people just saying horrible things behind you that aren't true, just trying to get you fired from a gig. Literally trying to get you fired from a gig. I have one like that in particular, but Sean knows. Uh, but you know what? I'm here. I got a house, mine. I got 2 cars.
I think that's what.
Obviously all that bullshit didn't do a damn thing to my career, and all that negativity and all that hate didn't do anything but make me better. So you know what? Thank you. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all that hate. And just look at it like that. I just look at it like that, because if somebody's hating on you, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah.
They might. Uh-huh.
I think we find out that everyone's replaceable, and so if you're dealing with being an ass for a while, eventually they're going to be out of your life, and it's not going to be, you might deal with some drama for a minute, but in the long game, it's like that person's going to be out and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Scotty, like, I mean, going to New York, because again, I've worked New York and I've worked LA, and I
think it's less.
noticed that LA.
It seems like there's less of that here.
Yeah.
I get that too. It's kind of more in your face over there, right? Like if there's something happening, they're not gonna be no daggers. They're just gonna come out and tell you from the beginning, or they just won't hire you.
I don't know. I mean, it seemed like in LA is more like people like trying to protect their own gigs there, and in New York it seems like there's more people here like more like more welcoming to you.
Probably because of the
If
creative.
they know they know you're a good player and a good dude and get along with you and stuff, they're going to help you get on gigs.
Nice.
That's exactly what happened to me my first year. It was crazy. My very first gig in New York was on Broadway, subbing on SpongeBob SquarePants for John Chidoba.
Wow.
Nice.
And just because I know I've known John for 20 years, and no, I just try to show up and play as well as I can on the parts, and I don't think I've seen much of that here at all.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I would imagine too if that's more because there's such a creative scene in New York, and out here there is. I don't want to say that, but I think maybe historically some of the stuff that maybe Serafin and I experienced was just because of the different kind of what the scene was about and things like that. Who knows, man?
Yeah. Well, here's something. I had an interview with Mark Pender. I don't know if you guys know Mark, but
yeah.
Mark said the difference between New York and LA was in New York LA, people kind of gauge your abilities on how well you read a chart.
Yeah.
And in New York, it's how well you can solo. It's like they gauge your abilities on your creative, rather than reading the page. And in LA, it's like it's all about the page. If you can play what's on the
a whole
page,
different scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say I would imagine that Broadway has a lot of reading in Broadway.
Yeah.
So you better be able to read well. Read well and be very versatile.
Well, the conductors expect you to, they may expect to hear a climb or two, like your very first time subbing, you're nervous, but that's why you get a couple chances to come in. But like if you're not really like close to like pretty much nailing it your second or third time, you're not gonna. They're still expecting you to play it. They want you to play it pretty perfectly the first or second time. But if there's just too much clamming going on, and it feels not right, they don't like your sound, you're not going to get called back pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's so first of all, guys, I apologize, but I got to call it because we're like at 90 minutes already, and I apologize. I don't want to stop the party. But first of all, but
we should definitely try to see if we could do like a casual trumpet hang. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, you guys should. Yeah, we should totally do it. First of all, Serafin, thank you for coming back, and thank you for answering all the questions.
My pleasure.
And
I hope we got to most of them.
Yeah, we did actually.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
Sean and Scott, man, it was just an awesome having you guys here. I mean, Sean, I've heard so many great things from you. And,
thanks guys for showing up. It was a pleasant surprise.
Nice seeing you, Serafin and Sean.
Yeah, Scotty, good to see you, man.
Yeah. So guys, I want to thank everybody who logged on and watched today. And again, if you have all three of these gentlemen are super nice. If you ever want to take a Skype lesson from them or anything like that, I'm sure they would be more than happy to help you out. You can reach Serafin, Scott, and Sean through Facebook if you want to send them a message or something like that. But they're all great guys, and they're all just a wealth of knowledge. So I want to thank everybody again for coming and spending this time with us. Sean, Serafin, and Scott, thank you guys. This was awesome, man.
It's great. Have a good one, guys.
Good to see you guys. You guys have a good one.
Rest of your day.
All right, guys. Later.